Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I need your help. I always thought that my education, my schooling was really done at a time when we still had some standards in Germany, and that was back in the 80s. So I think that, or I thought at least, that I was decent enough in geography so that I know where the basic countries are to be found on the globe. But now I have some self-doubt. I really don't know if that is true anymore. Because silly me, I thought that the Ukraine is a multi-ethnic, Slavic, Eastern European nation between Russia, Belarus, Poland, and in the south there is the ocean, the Black Sea, and then Turkey, you know? And in the west it also borders to Slovakia and Hungary and Romania. Oh, and Moldova. I almost forgot about Moldova, of course. Anyway, so this is what I thought I had learned in school, but now I really don't know anymore what to believe, because all these irregular travelers and these people who are seeking shelter and protection here in Europe, some of them made it to Germany, and we are told by our media, by the public media, that they are coming from Ukraine. But that is strange to me because they look exotic, not Slavic exotic, Eastern Europe exotic, but, you know, they look more like the darker kind of exotic, if you know what I mean. And our media doesn't really tell us also how many they are. They are telling us that the majority of the around 40,000 people that have made their way to Germany from Ukraine already, that the majority of them are Ukrainians. But they're not telling us what that means. And since 2015, I'm a little suspicious, you know. Does that mean that ethnic Ukrainians are the largest group? And that means they're like 30%? And the next biggest ethnic bloc would be like 15 or 20%? Or do they mean that the absolute majority of those 40,000 are ethnic Ukrainians? So that means 60% or 55%. I really don't know because they don't mention it in their articles. And our government is also not saying anything. They also say that there are no checks, that they don't even want to know. And when I say no checks, I don't mean no people from Bohemia or the Czech Republic. I mean they don't really check their documents, or they don't really check their status or where they're from or whatever. They only say, when they say they come from the Ukraine, then they can stay in Germany for 1 or up to 3 years, and they can work, and they can also get welfare right away, and it should all be done, and here is the magic word again, unbureaucratically. And that is a word that Germans normally don't get to hear, because whenever something happens, everything is done very bureaucratically, with a lot of thorough bureaucracy that costs a lot of money and, as you can imagine, is always working against the interests of the native German population, always at the benefit of other people or our state, but never in our favor. That is the kind of bureaucracy that we have here. But when it comes to other people, then help is always unbureaucratically organized, of course, which just means that huge amounts of taxpayers' money out of some slush fund is just handed out to these people, and they're not asking any questions. And forgive me if I may come across as a little bit cynical or cold-hearted, but you know, after all these things that happened, after all these events and all these lies year after year, I just get a little bit suspicious, and I don't believe anything anymore that our government claims. So right now I've heard that 1 million of them already made their way to Poland, and many of them want to stay in Poland or Slovakia or Hungary, Romania, and so on. Oh, Moldova. I forgot about Moldova. I don't know if they want to stay in Moldova though. Who knows? Because these countries are of course much closer to them, and maybe they want to return fast and they don't want to stay too long. But you know, the very colorful exotic people, I don't think they want to stay in the Ukraine. They don't want to fight there for sure. It was good enough to live there or do God knows what there, but they're not fighting for Ukraine, that is for sure. And you might also be familiar with the fact, or that at least what we heard, that men between the ages of 18 and 60, I think, are not allowed to leave Ukraine because they're supposed to stay and fight. So technically all the people coming to us should be Ukrainian women, children, and elderly people. But that is not what we see, and I've seen some footage, like the AfD has posted some videos where they were there when the buses were unloading and when the trains were unloading. We can see this, and this is not a point of discussion, because even the mainstream media now goes to say that, oh, in Poland there is discrimination. The Polish authorities, they're helping the Ukrainians, the ethnic Ukrainians, but other people who come out of the Ukraine, who also seek shelter, they're kind of treating them worse, these evil Polish people. So this is how we know that these stories are not made up, when even the mainstream media talks openly about that, and also when they use this as a chance to once again paint Poland as a evil nation that discriminates once again. I mean, shouldn't they be glad that Poland, after all, is also hosting a lot of people who seek shelter and refuge there? Isn't that something that the Western media should also acknowledge and even celebrate? So Germany is taking in all the Africans and all the Middle Easterners and other people as well on the side, of course, while Poland can host the travelers from Eastern Europe. Isn't that a great division of labor? Isn't that a great thing? Everybody does what they can do. Isn't that great? And it is another really interesting question what these people were doing there. Our German public broadcasting wants to explain that right away to the German taxpayers. They're saying, oh, these people were foreign exchange students in Ukraine. They all studied in Kiev. So I didn't know that a university in Kiev is like this big international hub where half of Africa and half of the Middle East is studying civil engineering or something like that. That's new to me. Maybe that is how it was. I don't know. But it could also be that after this attempt of the Belarusian government to pressure the Polish border with travelers from the Middle East and Africa, that they attracted by means of a targeted advertisement campaign in the Middle East and in the South. They used that as a kind of attack, as a weapon to attack the Polish border with. So I don't know, maybe they pushed them then out of Belarus into Ukraine, and this is where they ended up, and they waited until now to come with all these people coming from the Ukraine, because Germany just says whoever comes in these trains, whoever comes there, we will host them. No questions asked, no matter what. We will not check where they're actually from. And this is, of course, a corridor that has been opened for all these exotics that were still in Eastern Europe. And I think, of course, this is speculation, but I think this has something to do with this attempt of Belarus earlier, in the fall of last year, in the winter last year, 2021. It wasn't too long ago, and you might have seen the pictures. I covered this on my channel too. This skirmishes and stuff on the Belarusian-Polish border, where the Polish border guards, they were not allowing themselves to get provoked. They were holding their ground. They held the line. They protected the EU border, so to speak. But I think a lot of these people were not students at a university in Kiev or something like that. No, they were just still hanging around in the area. Because let's ask another question. Let's say you are a middle-class guy from the Congo and you're studying civil engineering in Kiev, and then mayhem breaks out in your host country. What would you do? Of course, first you want to get out of the country, sure. But then as a second step, you want to go back to your own country, right? I mean, you're studying somewhere and then it's not safe and you have to get out, and you would just take the next flight back home then, right? You wouldn't go to a completely different country and, might as well go on welfare here. Now I don't want to be a civil engineer anymore. Now I want to go on welfare. Well, they might still be able to study civil engineering, but probably not in their language or not in English. I don't know. But this seems a little bit implausible and quite frankly unbelievable to me. Let's say, once again, you're a student there and you have to get out. Yeah, sure. First thing, you go out and you take any chance you get to get out of that country if it's unsafe there. Sure, that's clear. But why would you then go on welfare thousands of kilometers away in a completely different country unless you wanted to actually go to that country to begin with? Because they can go back to their actual home country if they wanted to. Nobody is holding them here in Germany. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that this is happening in Germany right now and in the East, in Poland and our eastern neighbors in those countries. This is happening now, and there are a lot of Ukrainians that are coming, sure, but among them, with them, next to them, are other people who have no right to come here, who shouldn't be here, and our government is just saying, oh, well, they're coming out of the area, so we're gonna treat them the same. And after all these years of lies and shady tactics, I have just become so suspicious that I even think that this was all planned, and that these people were in Eastern Europe just waiting for a chance like that to get into Western Europe or Central Europe. So now we have 40,000 new welfare recipients in Germany from Monday, I think, and 1 million more are just waiting to come. Some of them are in Poland already, of course, a lot of them actually, but other Central European countries have already asked for assistance with hosting these migrants or these travelers. And that means that no matter where they are staying, I think Germany will, in one way or another, in the end have to pay for them anyway. So it doesn't matter where they are really. We are paying in the end, but where they're staying determines where they can do some mischief or some good. But maybe mischief, but also something good? Well, you decide, I guess. Or no, they will decide. And many of them have decided already. Take care. Servus, Kameraden.